Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we're talking about building a real estate portfolio. I mean, we're talking about doing it from scratch all the way to getting to financial freedom. Look, there's a reason that you've heard that real estate can be one of the easiest and best ways to retire. Maybe not the easiest, but the best ways to retire. And the reason for that is that this is crucial to you really building the kind of financial freedom you want to have in your life, right? Financial freedom is where you're able to walk through your life and you don't have to worry about money. What you're bringing in from your investments and your returns pays for your cost of living. Real estate is one of the best ways to get there, but it's a minefield, right? There's so many people out there that are gurus or experts that don't really know what they're talking about that can lead you in the wrong direction. So today we're going to get you on the right path. And we're going to help you actually build a portfolio from scratch. And we'll talk about the path to get you all the way to financial freedom. And with us today, have this conversation is Sam Primm. Now, Sam grew up in St. Louis in a hardworking family with an engineer father and a teacher mother. Now, following the traditional path, he earned his degree and secured a stable corporate job in his hometown. And while the role provided financial stability, well, its high pressure demands and long hours highlighted its limitations and drained his energy. So determined to break free from those constraints of the corporate world, Sam actually turned to real estate as a way to build a truly different kind of future. Now, the early years were filled with challenges, including failed ventures and hard-learned lessons. And however, through persistence and a focus on continuous improvement, Sam actually developed strategies that worked. And over the next 9 years, he built a real estate empire, acquiring $45 million in assets, $45 million in assets, flipping over 1,000 properties. Over 1,000 properties. I don't know how that's possible in a lifetime, let alone in the time. He's a pretty young guy. I got to ask him about that. And managing 150 plus single family rentals, all without using his own money, which is what we all want to hear about. And Sam's success in real estate inspired him to help others achieve similar results. So he founded Faster Freedom, a platform designed to teaching aspiring investors how to quit their jobs and create wealth through real estate. Now, by sharing practical, up-to-date strategies based on his own experience, Sam actually equips his students with the tools and knowledge they need to succeed in today's market. So through his work, Sam has become a trusted mentor and resource for anyone looking to break free from traditional career paths and achieve financial independence. Sam, man, what? You've done so much stuff. Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. That is a heck of an introduction. You made me sound way cooler than I am, which I always appreciate.
How do you flip over 1,000 properties? I mean, I have to start there because like that's I mean, I would think a property a month would be hard to do. And so I don't even understand like the math. How do you get to flipping over 1,000 properties? That's crazy.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that go into that. So we have a team. I have six full-time acquisitions reps that their job is to go out and buy distressed properties through relationships as well as through marketing. And each of them are tasked with buying about 4 to 5 a month. So, that's where we get to 200 and 250. We did 312 a couple years ago. That's where we get to that 2 to 300 houses per year. And I say flip because it's simple. About 25% of those we close on, we rehab, we sell, we have crews, and about 75% of those we wholesale. We flip, we buy them and then we sell them without touching them, wholesale them. So that's where you get to that number. We're actually just crossed the 1,600 property flip mark a few months ago. So yeah, we got a team, we got a system, we got a process, and we got a brand that allows us to do it at scale here in St. Louis.
How did you get there? Because everybody hears this and then they go off to accomplish that dream and they forget about all the hard work you took to get there. So what did you do? Walk me through that. You went to college, you came out with a degree. What was the degree in? What were you doing in your hometown? And then what made you like switch and go real estate's the answer and then decide to go all in on real estate?
Yeah, so it's not like there's not this like rags to riches story. They're not gonna create a movie about how I did it, which is kind of disappointing. But I think it's how I did it, I think is relatable, and I think other people can try to emulate it, which I think is exciting. There's a lot of these gurus, like you said, that have this maybe real, maybe not, like, story about growing up and, selling, newspapers on the corner and all these crazy horrible things happening to them. My story, like you mentioned earlier, is very normal. Midwest, went to school, got a degree in marketing, got a job in sales right out of college, and I thought that I was going to work until I was 65, like my dad did. My dad retired. He worked for Boeing for 45 years. He retired at the age of like in his early 60s, and that's all I knew. That's what my goal was. That's what my dream was. And in fact, I remember watching those Folgers commercials. The coffee commercials with the dad getting up and the kids are sleeping and he makes his Folgers, he smells it, he gets in his gold Camry and drives to work while his kids are and his wife's sleeping. That's what I wanted to do. That was my goal. But again, super cliche, super boring, super normal. My best friend at the time and current business partner, Lucas, he sent me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I graduated college in 2011, got married in 2012, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2012 on my honeymoon, and it started to open my mind up a little bit to the financial freedom, the assets versus liabilities, that there was potentially more for me to do than go work for somebody else to retire only when I'm too old to actually enjoy that retirement. So that's what sparked it all. And by 2014, me and Lucas, who I mentioned earlier, decided to start investing in real estate on the side. And my goal was to buy one house a year for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, start to sell them off and maybe retire a little bit earlier. So even at that point, I didn't have goals and aspirations to do what I'm doing now. I don't know if I didn't think it was possible. I just didn't have those big goals. I'm not one of those guys that, thinks, at least I didn't think that, I was going to be this billionaire and I'll have all this money. So, 2014 started investing in real estate on the side, and by 2018 we both quit our jobs and went all in.
Wow. So how did you make the leap? How did you go from one house a year to where you are now that you're doing hundreds a year?
I learned about the number one skill that has allowed me to create the most wealth as well as other people's, and that is leverage. That's one of the beautiful things about real estate is you can do it with little to none of your own money. Stock market's great, right? It's gonna double every 7 years, great, but you have to put money into it. 401k is awesome. Your employee might match some of it, but you have to put money into it and you can't touch it. Same with an IRA. You have to put money into it, but you can't touch it. So there are all of these things that tie you to your job, your salary, your 401k, your IRA, because you can't do anything with any of that. And I always say that most people don't make enough money, especially in today's society, to save enough to live well, to invest enough to actually get ahead. Everyone's kind of treading water right now because of inflation and the fact that it's expensive to live these days. So the only really way to jump in front of the line is leverage. And that's what I learned very, very quickly because believe it or not, my very first rental property was an accidental rental. I didn't know that you could use other people's money to buy rental properties, which I'm sure we'll get into. I bought it to flip it and I was going to take the profit and put 20% down on a rental. So I wanted to buy one rental a year. That meant I had to do one flip and it had to go well. And then I had to take the profit from that flip to put 20% down on a rental. That was my path. But during that initial rehab, I learned out about cash out refinances. I learned out about leveraging, and I was able to end up keeping that property and owning it. And I still own it to this day. So the biggest thing that allowed me to grow and scale was understanding leverage and not being scared of debt, both of which were not really taught as we're growing up and trying to make it in the world.
I'm a big fan of OPM. You are too. I've watched your stuff on YouTube. It's killer. And by the way, you need to go find Sam on YouTube because his stuff is off the charts, which I think you could just find with your name, right? Sam,
Yeah, you should
Sam Primm.
Sam Primm or Faster Freedom, either one on any platform you'll be able to find me. Yep.
Check his content's insane. So right now you should go check it out and follow him on YouTube. It's Sam Primm, SAMPRIMM. So Sam, let's start. I kind of start with the beginning and work up, but I'm interested to know. I mean, financing. How do you do it? Can you really get into real estate with no money down? And what are some of the most proven strategies you found that are scalable to do that?
Yeah, there's one main strategy which is awesome. I always say, and obviously other people say it too, but this is so simple, but it's not easy. There's a big difference between simple and easy. People think they're synonyms, and they're just simply not. So I understand that I do make it sound simple because it kind of is. And I also do it all day, every day. I'm in the trenches and actually doing it, which I think adds more value to the content. As you're saying, I'm not talking about something that I used to do or don't do. But the biggest thing is having just one simple method, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It's called the BRRRR method. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and systemize is what I turned it into. I'll just do a quick little example of it to help the audience understand. I know you know what it means, but everybody else might not. And this method I've used to buy 165 single family rentals, six apartment complexes, three self-storage facilities, and a hotel motel that we turned into like a boutique Airbnb thing. So this works for any real estate asset class. This works as long as you're buying it and adding value and managing it properly. This works. So I don't want people to think this is only for single family rentals, although it predominantly is. So it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and systemize. And this is how I bought 50 million now in real estate using none of my own money. I don't know that I'll be able to get to 100, 200, 300 million with none of my own money. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but we've gotten here without using any of our own money. So what you do is you find a distressed property that you buy using somebody else's money. There's private money, there's hard money, there's lines of credit. There's a lot of different ways. You're just not using your own money to buy a distressed property. Let's say you can buy it for $50,000 to keep the math simple. And then you rehab it using somebody else's money. Private lender, hard money lender, line of credit, your cash, whatever you do, because you're going to get it back. So you put 25 grand into it. So you buy it for 50 using somebody else's money. You rehab it for 25,000 using somebody else's money. Then you get it rented. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then the next step is the refinance step. You go to a small local bank and they will do a third-party appraisal and they'll give you a loan for 80% of the appraised value. So this property appraised for $100,000. The bank writes you a check for 80 grand. Now you owe them that over the next 25 or 30 years, but they write you a check for 80 grand. You take the $80,000 and you pay back your private lender their 75,000 plus 5 in interest. They're paid off. They're good. They made 10, 12% on their money in 6 months. They're happy. They're gone. Now you owe the bank 75, or you owe the bank 80 grand, but you take rent and you pay back the bank. And guess what happens over time? That real estate's going to double in value. And you, over time, the tenant pays down the principal balance. So you're doubling up on your equity. Value goes up, tenant pays down the debt, and you get tax-free cash flow along the way. And yes, it's a process. Yes, it's a step, but 5 rental properties can completely change your life. Most people are willing to work for somebody else for 50 years. When I'm telling you, give me 1 or 2 years and let's get you 5 properties, and that will set yourself, up better financially than working for 50 for someone else. So that's the process in a nutshell. Of course, there's nuances to it, but generally that's the workflow.
So let me ask you some questions about this because I my brain breaks it down two ways is that we've got the acquisition and then we've got, when the property's rehab done or refinancing. So for refinancing, how many of these mortgages of these can we have? How many properties can we have or we have outstanding mortgages for? And what kind of mortgages are we getting? Are we doing Fannie Freddie type mortgages
Yeah, so you can have
after
however
rehab?
many. Yeah. So you can have however many mortgages you want. You could have 10 in your personal name, but if you own them in an LLC and do a commercial loan like I've done, you can have unlimited. There's no cap to how many loans you can have. And that was a great question because if you do it in your personal name, there is a 10 loan cap. So you're getting commercial loans at small local banks. They're just commercial, loans. They're not Fannie Mae. They're not Freddie Mac. That's a huge misconception for a lot of people because your traditional residential loan that you have on your house, Bank of America gave it to you, and then they sold it off to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So they didn't service the loan, so they don't own the loan. These small local banks, they service and own the loans. I have a portfolio of rental properties. They have a portfolio of loans. So they borrow from the Fed at 5%, lend to me at 7%, and they make that 2% spread every single month, and they hold the note in-house. So you made a good point. It's not something you can just go down the traditional path. You have to have the right connections. You have to have the right financiers, but they're out there and they're in every market. They're not hiding. People just probably haven't looked in the right spot.
So you're looking for local regional banks, local credit unions, And you're looking for portfolio lenders, not ones that are basically selling the paper on the secondary market, right?
100%. Yep.
Okay. And then what kind of LTV, what kind of loan to value do these kind of properties have when again, we're the ones when the property's already rehabbed and you're refinancing into that long-term loan.
75 to 80% usually.
Wow.
Some will go over 80, not very common. I would say 75 to 80% loan to value is what you're going to get your cash out loan on. 90% of the time it's going to be in that range.
Are you doing DSCR type of stated income loans, or are we doing full doc? And well, I guess they're in the business name. Well, that's a good question. Like, are they doing full verification on these things, or is it just debt service coverage that they're looking for?
Yeah, that's great. So it's I wish it was a simple answer. It's a little bit of both. So when you're developing a relationship with a bank at first and you're doing your commercial loans and they're going to be it's more asset-based lending instead of borrower-based lending as you alluded to, they are going to kind of poke at your personal credit, maybe poke at your income at first just to see you as a borrower and build your relationship. But these small local banks are relationship bank. They're you're going to know the owner of the bank probably. They're businessmen and businesswomen masquerading, entrepreneurs masquerading around as bankers. So you build a relationship with them, and eventually they're not going to check your income and credit and all of those things. They're just going to look at the asset. So it starts a little bit personal, and then it becomes based on the LLC and the asset. Because I do well for myself, but I have $30 million in debt, right? So that is not a DTI probably safe type of formula to be had because I borrow money and every dollar that I borrow I get a certain amount of equity and a certain amount of cash flow from, but you can't do it without debt if you want to grow and scale as quickly as I have, unless you come from money already.
And by the way, you're following along, you can go to fasterfreedom.com. And at fasterfreedom.com, you can see that, we're talking about a mentor program. He's got a full mentorship program. And he's also has a YouTube channel, which is remarkable. I mean, it's one of the best real estate, if not the best real estate YouTube channel I've ever seen. So if you want to follow along step by step of what he's doing, you can go to fasterfreedom.com and that'll get you there. So now when you're buying the property, what are some of the most common methods that you or your students are using? Because you mentioned a lot of them. You mentioned credit lines, you mentioned hard money loans, amongst others. So what are the most common methods that your students are using to get into this without any money out of pocket in the beginning?
Yeah, there's several different ones. So the easiest and like the push a button is a hard money lender. There's local ones and there's national ones. I have one, Faster Freedom Capital. So I lend to my students as well, hard money. So hard money is the easiest one. The drawbacks of hard money are they are going to require some liquidity and probably some money down. So you're not going to be able to get 100% finance like you would with a private money lender. So hard money lenders are companies that are in business to lend you money. However, they're usually arbitraging some type of money. So they're going to need some liquidity and maybe some down payment and some potentially some experience. So that's the easy button. They're there. They will lend, but you might have to bring some money to the table. Now, if you go that route, you have options. I tell a lot of my students they can get a home equity line of credit out, on their house. The hard money lender does 90% of it. You need 10%. Do a home equity line of credit on your house. You're going to get it back. Remember the example I told them earlier is you refinance and you get it back. So even some students use their own cash. My goal is just not out of pocket long term. If you need 10, 15 grand and you have it, marry the loan together, use it, and then pay yourself back on the refinance or sale if you're flipping it. So hard money lenders mixed with some type of gap funding. So that could be a home equity line of credit, could be a self-directed IRA, it could be a private lender. There's a lot of different options. And then the main one that everyone goes for are these private lenders. These are individuals, not institutions, not companies. They're individuals that that have access to some types of funding that they can lend you the money. And they're not going to do a credit check. They're not going to do a background check. They're not going to underwrite the property. They're going to write you a check for whatever you tell them to write you a check for, and that should fund the purchase and rehab, and then you pay them back. So private lenders are the most the best and most scalable lenders to get. You just have to put a little bit of effort to find them.
Yeah, and I love that. This is a strategy we talk about a lot about with business funding, right? Is that, like business credit paying 90% of what you need in business, then you're just trying to fill that delta of the 10%. Way easier to get a loan or a credit line for that amount than the total amount. So I just love that of being able to use lender, private investors, other people's money to get you part of the way there, 70, 80, 90%. Then you just need a little bit of money from another source. A lot of different ways that we get that. And by the way, if you're watching the show, you already know we talk about a lot of those ways to be able to do it. So I'm just getting started. Let's say you talked about wholesaling, you talked about flipping. Like, where do you guide your students to get started? Because man, there's a lot of freaking options, right? It's like I got mobile home parks, I got storage. I mean, like everybody's talking about their way is the best way. It's so overwhelming and confusing. So, how do you help your students get in there and understand where they should start, and where do you recommend that they actually start?
Yeah, I love that. Love that question. So we give a, it's going to sound like an oxymoron. We give like a customized holistic approach. So the first thing we tell them is, what's your cash situation? Do you have cash? Do you have good steady income? Do you have bad debt, student loan debt, credit card debts? Like, what does your current financial situation look like personally? If you're making a good income and you have a good job and your credit's good and you're good, well, let's start with rentals right now because you only create wealth by owning assets over a period of time. So the longer you wait to buy rentals, the longer you're waiting to create financial freedom. Nobody ever got wealthy flipping houses. They got wealthy owning assets, businesses or real estate. You have to own them and you have to own them over a period of time. Of course, you can shorten the period of time by volume by doing multiple, but you have to own. Now there's the other side of it. They have the bad debt. They, want to get their credit score up a little bit. That's where we tell them, to wholesale or fix and flip. You don't need credit to do either of those things. You can wholesale and never close on a property. You can fix and flip using a private lender. So if they need chunks of cash now for their financial situation, then hey, let's get you chunks of cash now. If you're doing okay, you can always add that. Let's get into rentals. So that's kind of the line of delineation we talk through with each student. Like, what's your specific situation? That's why it's the customized, but it's holistic because we can tap into any form of real estate. And to put a pin in your question, we always tell people single family rentals is the best place to start. Yes, there's apartments. I own them. Yes, there's self storage and there's mobile homes and they're all of those things. But the simplest, easiest way to get started to build the credibility with the lenders, to build the credibility with the contractors, to build the confidence in yourself is to at least do a handful of single family flips, rentals or wholesales or a combination. You just learn it and they're liquid. You can't sell a mobile home park tomorrow. Well, you probably can't. You can sell a house tomorrow. They're in demand, they're in need. Consumers buy them and investors buyers. Consumers don't buy apartments, consumers don't buy mobile home parks, but investors are your only options for those things. So single family is just more liquid, easier to wrap your arms around, easier to see the financials of it and build the confidence. And again, you do a handful of single family rentals with a bank and you prove yourself to them, they're very likely to approve you for that 12 unit apartment complex when they're probably not just going to take you green off the street and say, yeah, here's a $900,000 loan on this 12 unit apartment complex. We trust that you're going to do this. You know what I mean? So single families are just a great way to get the ball rolling and then you can scale them or you can kind of diversify from there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You have money. If you have money, go to rentals. If you don't have money and you need it, then you do fix and flip and you do wholesaling. But let me ask you this: like at your scale, you're doing a lot of fix and flip and wholesaling, right? And so you didn't transition from that to that. So are you doing that to then make more cash that then you're using to reinvest into the system to be able to develop more rentals? Is that why you're still doing so many fix and flips and wholesaling?
Yeah, the biggest reason we have our local fix and flip and wholesale company called Faster House here in St. Louis, it's a couple different reasons. One, we truly feel like we are making the community better by taking these distressed properties and either selling them to somebody who's going to make them nicer or rehabbing them themselves or being, landlords like we are with a conscience and treat people fairly and do things the right way. Most people don't understand that if real estate investors went away, they actually think the opposite. They think that real estate investors are hurting the real estate market when in fact we're helping it. We take houses out of the supply of a normal home buyer and we add them to the supply. Nobody's going to take the house that we bought last week that we bought for 280 grand that needs $130,000 in rehab. Nobody qualifies for that type of loan. No first-time home buyer is going to have the cash or resources to rehab it. So we add to the supply. So that's not the main reason, but a big reason why we do it, because we truly feel like we're making St. Louis community better. Secondly, we're providing assets to us and our team. So Lucas, my business partner, and I are able to have a system, a process to just we have 26 houses under contract right now. So we're able to pick a handful of them and keep them as rentals. So we're adding to our rental supply through that company. But then our team does too. We have like 400 units owned by our team. So our team has the opportunity to buy these properties and keep them as rentals or flip them if they want. Obviously we mark them up, but they can do that. And then lastly, yes, it's a good additional stream of income. That company is I'm not gonna say volatile, but in the fall and winter we don't make as much money. In the spring and summer we do pretty well. We kind of follow the real estate trends, so it's just another stream of income for me being an idiot entrepreneur and trying new things and failing and not having companies always be as profitable as they could be. When you have three or four of them, there's a good chance at least one or two of them are going to hit that month, while you're screwing up the other ones.
Yeah, and I love it. And I love that you practice what you preach. I don't know if I've had anybody on the show that's done as much volume or doing as much volume as you are. And I love that because you have vast knowledge to be able to help so many of your students. Speaking of your students, Faster Freedom, what are you guys doing? What are you doing to help people break into this and actually scale?
Yeah, that Faster Freedom community is nuts, man. I didn't ever do any of this to A, create a social media following, or B, create a coaching program. I posted on social media, my personal Facebook, like 2020, about like an apartment we bought, and people were freaking out. High school buddies, college friends, people I didn't know, like, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? So then I created like a professional page, and then I had people saying, teach me, teach me, teach me. So we turned that into 2021-ish. I started a quote unquote mentorship, and we have over 2,000 students now that own over 350 million in real estate and have bought over 500 million if you're talking flips as well. So it's really, really cool. And I'm always tweaking and changing it. But right now, if you were to join my community, we have 12 weekly group coaching calls. They're like mastermind calls. There's like 20, 30 people on them. With a couple qualified coaches, and I'm involved as well. There's one-on-one calls. We have a Facebook group. We introduce you to the right people. We introduce you to the right LLC companies. We introduce you to our funding or other funding. We introduce you to contractors. We have students in all 50 states now, which is pretty cool. So we're building a community where had someone join yesterday from Dallas. We have 65 students in Dallas. So we plug them into our network in Dallas, and then they have the resources they need. So again, it's just the fact that we do it all. We have a call on creative financing and sub two. We have a call on rehab and construction, so we can kind of cover everything because we do everything, and people can plug into what they want to do or what they need now. And we have people in the group that have bought 65 rentals in 2 years, and they're still involved, and they're helping coach and teach. So it's this really cool blend of self-guided resources, videos, community, and calls that is unique. And I'm proud of it, and it's definitely not something I thought I'd be doing, but it's fun, and we're helping a lot of people create financial freedom.
I love it, man. And congrats on your success. I think you're probably part of Matt's group down here in Tampa. I'm sure you come down and visit, but you have to know how rare you are. Like the volume you're doing, like it's I talked to a lot of influencers, like very few ever I talk to that do the volume you guys do. So just congratulations, man, because to be able to do what you're doing volume wise and still have a place in your heart to come in and take an average everyday person and then bring them up with you. It's just such a cool thing. That's a Midwest thing. Like it just is. Like doing it for your community, like it just I love to hear you talk because coming from Indiana, it just reminds me like of that's just the way that things are. So I am so appreciative that you do what you do to bring people up with you and that you're so dedicated to your community. Just kudos, man. You're a real standout in the industry.
I appreciate that very much. I try to be different, and I try to be me. I have like 3.5 million followers on social media, and I talk too quickly. I mumble sometimes. I slur a little bit with my words. I'm not your news anchor style content creator, but I think kind of what you said, it's authentic, it's real. I talk about the screw ups, the good, the bad, the ugly. I make probably way less money than some people think and way more money than some people think. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I'm just trying to go out there, grow my companies, grow my businesses, and enjoy time with my family. And sometimes it's very financially rewarding, and sometimes it's very, very frustrating. But that's just part of it. And it seems like the more you help people, the more money you make, not the other way around.
Yeah. Sam, where can everybody go? What actions should they take to be able to learn more? Because we scratched the surface, and I want to warn everybody, like we made it sound easy, but it's not easy, right? Like this is why you want to follow Sam on social. It's why you really want to go to fasterfreedom.com and you want to really entertain being part of his community because there's so many details that you don't know. We didn't have a chance to cover in 30 minutes. So where can those people that are say, okay, I want to do this, like you're the king of OPM to be able to do this, where can they go? What should they do to be able to start following you and be part of your community so they can actually be able to have this kind of success?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing you mentioned a little bit earlier is just following me on social media and kind of getting a feel for what I do and how I do it. I'm on all platforms under Sam Primm or Sam Faster Freedom. So just look up either of those things. The company's Faster Freedom. My name's Sam. So just follow me there. That's the best place to go because I want you to understand how I do things and the style that I have and make sure it's a good fit for you because we don't just take anybody. Obviously, we want to have people and help people, but if it's not the right fit, there's no point in us doing a transaction where you're not going to put in the effort and we're not going to be able to provide what you're looking for. So the biggest things are just checking me out on social media. I do webinars weekly now, starting to do webinars weekly. So if you follow me on socials, you'll see me talking about a webinar or you get an ad from me about a webinar. And that's where I sit down for an hour and break everything down, give you some resources, give you some tools, and then allow you to be able to book a call with my team to see if you're a good fit. So I'd rather have them start there than say, hey, go to this specific URL and sign up for my mentorship. Go there, learn a little bit about me, DM me on Instagram. I have 650 something thousand followers on Instagram, but I still am the one that answers my DMs. I spend about an hour a day inside my DMs on all my platforms because I like to interact. I like to blow people away because they assume it's somebody else. And I learn about what the struggles are from the people that are wanting to get in the space, and that allows me to create content and make my mentorship better so that when they come in, it's something that they talked about they needed. So, roundabout answer, but in general, I would say do that for sure.
Sam, thanks for coming on with us today.
I appreciate you having me.
All right, so listen, you should really do a couple steps right now. First of all, go find Sam on social channels. Okay, Sam Primm, Primm. You can also go again to Faster Freedom. So go to fasterfreedom.com. A lot of great stuff there. You could check out and learn more about what Sam's doing. I didn't look, but I imagine top or bottom, you can get to his social channels there too. And then find him online. I mean, his YouTube channel especially, I just sucked me in. I love it, but he's big on multiple different social platforms. Look, we're at 900 and something episodes of the show, and I don't think I've talked to anybody that's doing as much volume and really doing what they're teaching as what Sam is. And there's a reason for it because he owns this master principle we talk about all the time, which is OPM. He's mastered using other people's money to be able to do this at a significant scale that very few I mean, he has to be probably like one of the 1% of 1% of people that's mastered that to a point to scale where he has. But he also could take that same lesson and give that to you as a student to actually understand how to get into real estate and then do it again and again and again. And we've heard multiple success stories here through this interview of people that are doing that at 60 properties plus in 2 years, for example. So there's a lot of success if you can master OPM, and that's what Sam has done. So make sure that you go and find Sam on social channels. Make sure you go to fasterfreedom.com as well and join in and be part of his community so you can learn to go from starting this if you haven't started already all the way to true financial freedom where this could give you the kind of financial freedom you really want to have. So make sure you check it out, Sam Primm online and also fasterfreedom.com. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.